because it really goes without saying. But then again, does it? Smoke weed and play video games all day and swipe on Tinder, which I find ridiculous. I don't judge. Common sense isn't common. Anything that's not grown is dying. You're already losing, and you really just wasted your time. What's going on, fellas? Today we're gonna do our video on the run, but I'm still here to provide y'all immense value. It's occurred to me that the average American can't find $1,000 in case of an emergency, which I find ridiculous. Through my travels and life experience, I don't have only one cure for that, I have 7 cures. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. The 7 cures for a lean purse. These aren't my cures, they come directly from The Richest Man in Babylon. I'll let y'all know I find that book so valuable that not only do I have the physical copy, but the audiobook, which I've listened to dozens of times, at least once a year. But without further ado, we'll get you the information and get you out of here. So the first cure for a lean purse is start thy purse to fattening. This is pretty self-explanatory. You have to start making money, however that is, whether it's a 9 to 5, which would be most people's path, or a lemonade stand, your own business, trapping. I don't judge. But however you're going to start making money, you need to decide and start. Obviously, there are things that pay differently depending on the skill set that goes into it. But whatever your ability will allow you to do immediately is what you need to do. And then you can progress from there. That first one probably could have got skipped because it really goes without saying. But then again, does it? Because I know there's people out there that are jobless, that probably smoke weed and play video games all day and swipe on Tinder. So while it's common sense, like they say, common sense isn't common. Now, number 2 is where a lot of people is going to fall off, right? It's probably the most difficult and the most important at the same time, is control thy expenditures. What does that mean? That means creating a budget. And not only creating a budget, but create a budget that makes sense. One little blip from the book is that when the richest man is discussing with everybody that they need a budget, one guy stands up and says, well, I make all this money, why do I need a budget? It's my money, I can do what I want with it. And he says, well, who would be making your budget? And he said, I would. So he kind of took away the illusion that the guy was losing something by creating a budget. It's not losing something, it's just setting your priorities straight and making it to where you don't have to think about it. You have to set systems in place that optimize your life, right? So having a budget and knowing exactly these are exactly my bills per month. This is exactly what I expect to make per month. And here's the wiggle room because I have other things, because you should be saving and investing, as well as obviously paying for all your necessities. And then you'll see where you are from there. Now, depending on where you are from there, you might need to cut. You might need to cut the fat off some things, some subscriptions, whatever the case may be. Or you might have more money left over than you thought. But through random frivolous spending and shopping, you don't know where that money goes. Now that you have a budget, you see exactly where that goes, and you can say, okay, well, if I stop just buying random stuff on Amazon, I'll have $200 a month that I didn't account for before, that I could do this, and that with. Probably the most important rule is making a budget or control thy expenditures. Rule number 3, make thy gold multiply. What does this mean? This means you have to invest. Anything that's not grown is dying, especially with the banking system that we live in currently, because if you're letting your money sit in a bank account or even a savings account that's not high interest, your money is automatically dying due to inflation off the bat. So unless you have investments to counteract that, in which you're getting a return that's beating inflation by a lot, you're already losing. Now, the one thing about this rule, I would say it's a little more nuanced than the rest of them, because investing is a very general term. There's a lot of different ways to invest. You can invest in real estate, you can invest in stocks and bonds, you can invest in personal development, and even within each of those arenas, there's still a lot of nuance, right? You can be a dividend investor. You can strictly invest in indexes, ETFs. You can be a commercial real estate investor. You can be a residential real estate investor. You can house hack, right? So this one is really going to apply to your temperament and your wheelhouse, what you feel you would be the best at. Some people are really good numbers people, and they might just want to do stocks. Stocks has a easier barrier entrance. You can start with $5, whereas real estate, obviously the startup capital would be more, and you would need a certain amount of credit. So that one would be the most personal and depend on your goals. Now, number 4. I think if we were to ask Warren Buffett, he would say this should be number 1. It's the most important. This is his first 2 rules of investment. Number 1, don't lose money. Number 2, see number 1, right? No matter how well you invest, if you make a 200% return and then lose everything, then you really just wasted your time. You might as well save the money and took a couple % loss due to inflation. You know what I'm saying? So guarding thy treasure from loss is pivotal. Especially now, there's a lot of investments that promise luxurious returns, but you really above the return should put the security of the principal as number 1 priority. So if I had a situation where I say, all right, give me this amount of money, and either you're going to double your money or lose everything, I would consider that gambling, right? There's a difference between investing and speculating, right? Speculation is basically betting on a guess. I think this is going to happen just because I have a feeling or I have this little bit of evidence. Proof and evidence are 2 different things. Knowing the difference between speculation and investing is pivotal in not losing money, which should be the goal. I'd rather make a 1, 2, 3% return on a dividend blue chip that I know is not going anywhere. They have $1 billion moat, rather than a meme coin that I could 10,000x my money, retire and live well, or just lose the money. I think slow and steady would win that race every time, me personally. Now, number 5, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. That means you should own your home, or your goal should be to own your home. Now, I understand that, especially with the housing market the way it is now, for some people that's unrealistic in their current situation, but that should ultimately be your goal, because you're always going to need a place to live. So renting makes sense for a certain amount of time, so that you can have a good down payment, so that you're not paying PMI once you buy a house, so that you have enough money once you buy your house in cases of emergency. And I can speak to this firsthand. I bought my house. Honestly, I bought my house in the worst investment I ever made. After I bought it, the AC broke. I have an upstairs and downstairs separate AC. I had to redo the whole AC. I live in Florida, hurricane season. The roof is leaking. Had to replace the roof. Between those 2 things, 40 grand. And I just bought the house. So I'm out my down payment and 40 grand within the first year. However, that's out of the way, and I'm still building equity in the house. It was a very good lesson. And honestly, if I could go back, I would have not bought the house. But it could be worse, right? While that was expensive and I didn't want to pay for these things, hopefully, once I do sell the house, the new roof, new AC system would add value to the house, along with the equity I'm paying into it. And guess what? If not, then I'll just hold on to the house until I'm able to sell it at that evaluation. Because the way I had my finances set up when I did buy it, that was the positive of it. I'm still sub 4% range in my interest rate. While I still had to pay those big ticket items, my actual cost of living besides that isn't that high. So I say all that to say this. The goal should be eventually home ownership. But number 1, like all investments, you need to do your due diligence, which is where I messed up. I had a baby on the way, and I wanted a house, and I liked the way the house looked. I thought I was going to be Scarface once I bought it, so I rushed into it. So do your due diligence and have your finances correct before you buy the house. Number 6 is ensure thy future income. So what that means basically is you should have a retirement account, and you should be contributing to it, because you can't work forever, and you don't want to be a burden on your family and loved ones once you're not able to work. That's one principle of it. 2, It builds discipline, not blowing all your money, setting certain money aside for your future self. 3, that money can obviously be passed down to future generations, setting them up for success throughout their life, whether you're around or not. So I would include life insurance and investments as part of this rule in securing that future income. So when I die, right now the policy is at $500,000. Not only do I have my investments, then my family will have $500,000, and my house can be paid off with that, with still plenty left over just from the life insurance. That takes away the biggest expense for my family is housing, right? Then you have the rest of the life insurance and my investments for them to potentially live on. It's not the point. I'm not built up to the point where they can just kick back and retire for the rest of their life from it, but they'll have plenty of time to figure out how to move on, at least financially. Dame Dash once said, "I don't hustle for my first name, I hustle for my last name," right? That should ultimately be the goal for any man, is to have a family and provide for them, whether they're here or not, and secure them. Obviously, you love your kid, but you should love your bloodline that you're not going to meet as well. And lastly, rule number 7 is increase thy ability to earn. We have everything in this country from people that get paid below minimum wage to billionaires, right? So what that tells me is any income range I want to make is possible, technically. So increasing thy ability to earn, you would have to take your goal or your standard income, right? See where you are, and then bridge the gap, bridge the skill gap, bridge the network gap. See what's the difference between where you are and where you want to be, and make the changes so that you don't chase the income in the life that you want. You actually attract it by the person that you've become. So I would say the first pillar of increasing thy ability to earn would be skills. Language skills, coding skills, sales skills. And then the second point I would make to that is increase your hustle, increase your work capacity. Because you could be the most genius, IQ skilled person, but if you just sit at home playing Jeopardy all day, then that doesn't earn you much. At least go on Jeopardy. You can make some good money on there if you're that smart, right? I can speak to this as well because at my 9 to 5, technically I'm on a 4-day work week, but I have the ability to work 6. Once I understood that the difference between working 4 and working 6 was about 40 grand a year, knowing what I could do with that money, that put the battery in my back to say, okay, that 4-day work week is out. I had nothing to do with my skills. I was still at the same level of skill. It was just more hustle added to it. Now, when I add skills to that and keep that same intensity, sky's the limit, and I understand that. But one thing I want to warn about that this last cure is that as you increase your ability to earn, you should try your hardest to maintain the level of expenditure. There's people that make minimum wage that live check to check, and there's people that make millions that live check to check. Now again, this is from Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. I would highly recommend everybody read the book. It has a little bit more biblical language. So they use words like purse in exchange for wallet, bank account, whatever you want to say. They use gold and silver, obviously the money at the time, and there's a couple nuances of words that have a little bit of a different meaning now. But if you're paying attention, it's not hard to follow along, especially if you listen to the audiobook. It was recommended to me by Jim Rohn, and I was so excited to start my financial journey that at the time I didn't have any internet access, anything. I went to my cousin's house. They had a computer over there. I sat down and found the whole 4-hour audiobook on YouTube for free and just took notes and listened to it all in one sitting. And this was over a decade ago. And again, it's so valuable that I have the audio version and the physical version. And I recommend it to anybody that's starting off in their financial journey. It's not the secrets to get rich in 2 weeks, right? It's all practical things that the majority are that you most likely already know. You know you're supposed to be saving. You know you're supposed to be investing. You know you're supposed to have a budget. But sometimes you just need a reminder. It's more so a gentle reminder, and it has beautiful stories wrapped up in it. So again, I would highly recommend it. If anything, I'm gonna find it on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it in the description of this video so that there's no excuses, right? Scroll down, click the video, watch it, take notes. All right, guys, hope you found some value in this. That's the video for today. I'm out.